Hello and welcome to the Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Friday, April 23rd, 2021. As always, we are grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using me again. That chapter of that book is a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool itself in the exploration and questioning.
You know that Cynthia Bourgeot thing about putting your hand on your heart? And
Sylvia Boorstein?
Sweetheart. Cynthia, what did I call her? Yeah.
Cynthia
right.
Bourgeot, you said.
Oh, sorry. Boorstein, yeah. I'm not there.
What about that process of...
Well, this business... It's hard to even talk about it. This business of having your own
being gentle with yourself?
Yeah, well, she appreciates herself and can say that to herself. And probably she really means it and feels it. It's just a wonderful thing that she can do that.
Okay, so are you like hiking up a hill, or are you having strong emotion about the thought of being gentle with yourself?
I'm having strong emotion about it. Yeah, I'm not hiking up a hill.
So please soften and breathe into that, because that is a very fruitful area of exploration for you.
Yeah. Somehow, the idea of a person having a song.
And remind us that we shouldn't put too much energy into trying to make sure that we can do this lesson every hour and every half an hour. And yet at the same time, we should be awake to the fact that, so just breathe and soften into what is sounding more and more as you let it come out, like sadness or grief.
Yeah.
So just breathe, soften into this, and it comes to me to suggest the mind shifter that erupted on the show a few years ago with Michelle. Something like, there has never been, nor will there ever be born, a person who has more value. Each individual show has been 2 hours, 5 days a week. So you won't have 3,000 shows, but you'll have over 3,000 hours of audio files. And you don't have to go sifting through those 3,000. Jeannie Rice has curated out highlight shows. And so if you click on the red and white bullseye after you go to whyagain.org, it will take you to a page where there's a list. As you scroll down, there'll be a list of highlight shows of these MP3 files that Jeannie recommends, that listeners have recommended, that those shows be singled out for special notice because they're so powerful, or they contain an actual demonstration of the application of the worksheet process. So we're here on the 113th day of the year. We're doing the Course in Miracles lessons. We're in a review lesson. And one of the paragraphs of the intro to the review lessons says, place these ideas within your mind and let your mind use them as it chooses. Give it faith that your mind will use them well. being helped in its decision by the One, the Creator that gave these thoughts to you. Have faith in these reviews. The means that the Holy Spirit uses will not fail. The wisdom of your mind will come to your assistance. Give direction at the outset and then lean back in quiet faith and let the mind employ the thoughts as they have been given to you to use. So today's review of Lesson 113 is a review of Lesson 95, which said, I am one, capital S, self. I am united with my Creator. Serenity and perfect peace are mine because I am one self, completely whole, at one with all creation and the Creator. And then review lesson number 96. Salvation comes from my one self, capital S self, my larger spiritual self. From my one self, whose knowledge still remains within my mind, I see creation's perfect plan for my salvation perfectly fulfilled. And the recommendation is that on the hour, we recite the first lesson, I am one self united with my Creator. And on the half hour, we recite, salvation comes from my one true self. We're also tapping into Pam Grout's book, A Course in Miracles Experiment. Her lesson 113 is titled, Flying Friendly Skies. She quotes W.H. Auden as saying, stagger onward, rejoicing. Pam writes, the morning review is, serenity and perfect peace are mine. I am one with everything. Pam writes, please accept this gift of 3 more stories from my inbox, all of which happened in airports. Since I was 5, I loved astronauts and space flight. I always dreamed of someday meeting an astronaut. While playing, in quotes, with the experiments from E Cubed, a book that she wrote, my wife gifted me with a book by astronaut Chris Hadfield. I read it in tears, thinking, this guy and I could have been brothers. Well, guess who he meets a few days later at the airport? The one, the only, Commander Chris Hadfield. Someone else writes, Mary Kay was in the Minneapolis airport, and she couldn't get the song Tears of a Clown out of her mind. Before she boarded her next flight, she bumped into Smokey Robinson, whom she'd always adored and had hoped to meet. He even gave her a big hug. The third story was, the last airport miracle story started with a joke. A friend said, he's always wanted to meet a porn star, only half serious or maybe not. He just happened to be seated next to a real-life porn star on the plane. She even showed him her website. So, serenity and perfect peace are mine for the morning review, and in the evening review, I am one with everything. That's from Pam Grout's book. The review lessons for today are, I am one self, united with my Creator, went to a back and forth
hear the child's song.
And
then wait.
You can have a conversation. I had something to share today from, well, I have several things to share. One of the things I'll share is that Michael and Jeannie Rice did an intensive last year, and as part of the intensive, they had a person volunteer herself and her husband to do a responsibility communication in the middle of the intensive. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It's only for those people who are really committed, but now it's available free. They've decided to make it available free for a week or a little more than a week. I don't know what it is. But they mentioned it in the past couple days in their internet show, and so we were reviewing it, we, meaning the royal we. I was reviewing it yesterday between patients and while doing paperwork, and I reviewed enough of it and skipped through it and reviewed it enough that I decided to offer to share some of it with the support group last night. And so that's available, and if you go to the archives of the forgive me, I'm not a good multitasker, so if you go to whyagain.org and you click on the microphone, the picture of the microphone, and then you come down to April, click on April, and you go through this week, which I'm doing now. In this week, somewhere within this week of the 19th and 20th and 21st and 22nd, you'll see in the notes that Jeannie Rice has made, she's put in a link for the responsibility communication tool. And that is on April 13th. Okay, so view the link to the 2-hour responsibility communication practicum from Saturday, April 10th. It's available for 2 weeks from the 13th. And when you click on it, you can watch this husband and wife team and get coached by Michael for the responsibility communication tool. So it's only available for another week or so. And it is it's a complex tool because of all the layerings of conditionings that each of us have and how confused our meanings are for various words and how strongly we are each programmed to blame people and things outside of us for our emotions. So it's worth watching and slowing down and taking notes, and so that's one thing I wanted to offer, that it is it's painfully long at times. It gets interrupted with questions from other participants, but if you stick with it, there's a powerful set of cues at several different points where there are clarifications made in the tool, the responsibility communication tool. The responsibility communication tool is the tool that's presented in the lecture that Dr. Michael Rice does titled, "Did you hear what I think I said?" And so you can buy that DVD from Michael and listen to the whole 2-hour thing. Or you can bypass that, take a shortcut to it, and the tool itself is available for free download off the website all the time. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a bunch of words on it, and it's probably going to get this is happening and that's happening, and it would be really helpful for me if you could clarify this. And the wife says, "I can't believe you're more worried about that than you are worried about me." And the husband tries to say, "You're the number one priority in my life. Why would I ever say anything to make you think that you're not my top?"
They're doing that. But what I'm saying is, I know I'm all over the place. I look in the mirror and I practice the commitment thing in the mirror, and I look at myself, can't or won't feel much of anything from my very own face, except when I see how I look like my mother, my father, and my sisters, or my cousin, even Maggie. We have a lot of resemblance. and I love them so much that I think I can love myself if I remember that I look like them. So it's getting closer, but to actually not mind my funny-looking looks and my jowls and chin hairs and baggy eyes and no eyebrows to speak of and eyelashes disappearing and hair going, and I'm thinking it's all superficial what I'm looking at. I'm seeing something that isn't really me.
Get my partner to change or stop doing something that I find irritating. The goal is for me to get crystal clear about how I'm carrying with me into the situation the upset that gets resonated by the interpretation I place on events. And for me to get very clear about that in a way that lets me communicate it, whether I'm writing it or speaking it to somebody else, is a real powerful tool. And that's what responsibility communication is about. And there's a major point of clarification in that video where the woman who's brave enough to do the demo has written out this letter. She's taken a good long time and lots of her own emotional energy to write out this responsibility communication letter. And one of the major learning pieces in the video is that the third point in the responsibility communication tool says, here's where I identify my thoughts and feelings. Hyphen, my issue, all caps, underlined, and exclamation point. My issue is in all caps. And these are the subjective observations. And this woman, bless her heart, has interpreted that as meaning, here's where I identify my thoughts and feelings. And she missed the part about how all she really wants to do here is identify her issue that she needs to heal. So she went on and on about her thoughts and feelings, and there's this wonderful interplay where she gets to understand, with Michael's guidance, how she was hiding attacks at or toward her partner in the guise of talking about her thoughts and feelings. And the real powerful clarification point in that video is that the third step in the responsibility communication tool is not for me to spell out everything to my partner about all of my thoughts and feelings that I think are caused by them, but to simply, succinctly, precisely say, after I talk about how this happened, you walked in the room, I was sitting on the couch, I said hello, you didn't answer, you walked out of the room. Very clearly, no interpretation, no judgment, just a description of the facts. That's what happens in step 2. And then in step 3, all I get to say, all I really want to say is, I had a lot of anger come up for me. I had these thoughts come up that you thought I wasn't important. Not 2 or 3 paragraphs of all of my pain and all of my suffering that was caused because you didn't say hello when I said hello to you. So there's powerful points of clarification in that video. It is a long process to sit through, 2 hours and 20 minutes. And yet, for one of the more powerful tools that Michael and Jeannie teach that often doesn't get a lot of airtime or living examples on the internet show, there it is. And it's up there for another week. And I encourage people, if they're at all interested, to take advantage of it before they lose the opportunity. I could go on and on, but I have a feeling that the tool is too complex and might be too... I may not be able to do it justice. So the video is there. you go back to the archives and look at April 13th, you'll see the link for the video, and you can access it for another week absolutely free. The other thing that I was going to share is from the book, The Tao Made Easy. And from the section titled Quit Doing Good, Alan Cohen, the author of the book The Tao Made Easy, he writes, when a woman in the African Himba tribe knows she is pregnant, she goes into the wilderness with some friends, and together they pray and meditate until they hear the song of the child. The tribe believes that every human being has a unique energy that can be expressed as a song that represents that person's soul. The women then teach the song to the tribe. And when the baby is born, the villagers gather to sing that child into the world. Then, at significant milestones in the child's life, things such as the beginning of education, the initiation into adulthood, marriage, and childbirth, the villagers sing that person his or her song. Finally, when that individual is ready to pass from this life, the tribe sings that person on into the next world. There is one other time when the villagers sing that community member their song. If he or she commits a crime or socially unacceptable act, that person is called to the center of the village, and the community sings that person's song. The tribe realizes that correction is achieved not by punishment, but by remembering who we truly are. So when I was reading that this morning, I was moved to tears on a variety of levels. And I thought about how the essence of our work on Mind Shifters Radio, the essence of our work in each of the Mind Shifters support groups, and so many of my sessions where people are so inclined, is to help people remember who and what they truly are. If you've been around for enough of these transitions between our first hour and our second hour on Mind Shifters Radio in the past 2 years, you have probably heard me say, I'd like to remind us all that we come from love. We are made of this stuff we call love, the creative energy. We actually are love, that energy of creation expressing in form, and everything else is false. That's what this work is about. It's not about all of the words. It's not even about the worksheet. It's about remembering who you are. It's about remembering how to access the still small voice within you, the touch point to a higher wisdom than your conscious logical mind. To understand that while the role of a guru might be useful at one time or another in your life, as the way of mastery reminds us, at some point, you can have a guru or a master or some teachings that carry you through difficult times, but eventually you're going to have to say, hey, put me down. I want to get on with this myself. You are the only one who can act the knowledge of who you are. You are the only one through whom the creative energy, which wants to express uniquely through you in this moment, can express. And so all of the tools that Michael and Jeannie teach and all of the work in these Mind Shifter radio show podcasts and Mind Shifter support groups is designed to help us step into the two-prong approach of remembering who and what we are and removing everything from our mind-body energy system that is not in alignment with that truth. So the power of reminding someone who has stepped out of bounds, who is doing something in this village, as they say, that was a crime or socially unacceptable, instead of punishing that person and treating them as though they were not the energy of creation expressing in form, that they were not truly loved, that they're not valuable, remind them of their true nature. And in this particular tribe, they did that with song. In some cultures, they do that by reminding each other with a phrase like namaste. And namaste, my favorite definition for namaste comes from Ram Dass in one of his books. He said, in the greeting namaste, what I'm trying to communicate is, I honor the light within you. I honor the place in you of light and love and truth and peace. I honor that place within you where when you go consciously to that place in you and I go consciously to that place in me, there's only one of us. Namaste. Susan, your microphone is on. How are you today?
I'm okay. This is so amazing about the song, Dr. Tim. My son, even as a little boy, used to come up to me and say, that person has a song. Certain people affected him profoundly, especially if he felt he loved them. And he'd say, she has a song. He never sang it to me, but he always said that for years. He still says it. That person has a song. So when you read that, I thought, oh, my God, that's so incredible. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Well, and there are some other stories I've heard about different indigenous tribes where instead of punishment, they would call the person to the center of the village and just talk to them about all of their good qualities. This is the only place I've encountered it expressed as a song in this book.
Yeah. Imagine that, though, going into the woods and listening for the song of your baby. Because kids do have a completely individual feeling tone about them. It's indescribable, but I suppose it could be called a song. I haven't really thought about that. I once wrote a piece, though, that I said to my son, this is you. This is you in music, or part of you. He was amazed. But, so I'm not sure the very person themselves, in our case, maybe it wasn't the authentic song, but it was my song for him. And I don't think he would have ever invented it himself. But anyway, it's just interesting that there's so much more than, I remember a nun saying to me once, we are so much more than we appear to be. And I've just loved that. That's been a kind of mantra.
Well, that is absolutely the truth for many, many reasons, not the least of which is that our senses simply can't show us most of what is there in terms of the energy of creation that we're flowing in. It can't show us the X-rays and the microwaves and the radio waves and the ultraviolet and infrared light that we know we're swimming in. Just as a beginning for understanding that we do not perceive accurately through our senses. We perceive in a very limited fashion through our senses. The other thing about this that brought tears to my eyes this morning was that for whatever reason, the blessings of the parents I had and the loving family I was raised in, I was gifted with the mind energy and the thoughts to be continually telling my sons that I love them deeply and that I was grateful to know them and that they were very intelligent people who could make good decisions, especially at times when they had not made a very good decision. And so rather than raging, most often my response was to remind them of their brilliance and their ability to make good decisions and how when they made good decisions they would have better consequences. And that reminded me of this village full of people when they encountered somebody who did something unethical or criminal or against societal values, rather than punishing them, they would remind them of their brilliance and light.
That's so gorgeous. Pam Grout quoted W.H. Auden this morning, and stagger onward rejoicing. That is something that went right in a way that sometimes the Miracles lessons don't do. I'm telling you, sometimes I'll memorize the Miracles lesson in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to repeat this every hour or every half hour or whatever it is. And I can't remember it. And I look it up, and all day long, and Tim Bingham and I will be walking in the afternoon. He'll say, what's the lesson for today? And I'll say, I can't remember. And I don't know if that's resistance or if it isn't the right fit right then. But Pam Grout has said two things in the last couple of days. She used the word spectrum. Maybe that was today. I get mixed up because I sometimes read ahead and read behind. She said, don't get limited into this, that, the other. Live in the full spectrum. That stayed with me. And this W.H. Auden thing has stayed with me. And you read her intro yesterday, a lot of which was about how we really have to discern between being very busy on our purpose or just avoiding the work. And if we miss a lesson, what's the reason we missed the lesson? Is it because we just don't want to bother and we're putting something ahead of that in importance? And I've been fussing about that, and this is an old issue. I have never been willing or able, I'm not sure which, to do the lessons according to the calendar and the recommendations in the course workbook. It seems too much. Like today, I was given an assignment to get a piece of music out onto a video with matching, an audio with matching video score pages so that when the music played, you'd see the score page and synchronization and all that stuff. It took me 3 hours to do. I wasn't even finished when 12 o'clock came, and I thought, in no way was I going to be willing to stop for 5 minutes each hour and do my lesson. And I think that's stubbornness, it's resistance, it's also practical. So I don't know what to do with all that. Certain things get through, and they seem to be riding on the song. W.H. Auden said something that's like a song. It went in and stuck, and it's been helpful and delicious. And the same thing with the living in the full spectrum. I'm going around looking at and thinking about things in a much wider spectrum, because that word was used and the admonishment was used not to get stuck in the old brain ruts and all that stuff, but to do the full spectrum. And I'm just deciding that that's going to be the way I'm going to do. I'm doing my work, Dr. Tim, but I'm not doing it the way they say. And I can't tell you. Yeah.
Well, but what I want to encourage you to do is breathe and soften and understand that the way you do it is perfect for you. And
whoa, I did breathe. That's good.
Because
good.
It's nowhere near as important that you follow this to the letter as it is that you just keep doing it when you're moved to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back to 2 days ago and the review introduction, it has 12 or 13 paragraphs about gearing up for this review and how each day's review assignments will conclude with a restatement of the thought to use for each hour. And and be careful in the first few paragraphs about your hesitance, because it does not want you to rework your entire life and put everything aside and go live in a cave and study these lessons.
Mm.
The second paragraph says, we understand, of course, that it may be impossible for you to undertake what is suggested here as optimal each day and every hour of the day. And this, it says right here in my copy of this, Dear Susan Bingham, please note, learning will not be hampered when you miss the practice period because it is impossible at the appointed time. It says your name right here in my copy of the book.
All right.
Dear Susan Bingham, please remember, learning will not be hampered when you miss a practice period because it is impossible at the appointed time. Nor is it necessary that you make excessive efforts to be sure that you catch up in terms of numbers. Rituals are not our aim. And rituals would defeat our goal.
Another big breath. Yep. Okay.
Not only is this book not telling you, you better do this every hour and every half hour. Not only is it not telling you that, it's telling you that if you try to force yourself to do that and make it a ritual, it will defeat the purpose of the lesson. So just soften and breathe into that for a minute, and then consider the possibility that, as you say, that you've done the Course in Miracles lessons before, you've attempted to do them before, etc., and you've never gotten through it perfectly or whatever. Please understand that there are probably reasons for that, and they will be reasons that are beyond your knowing, and it's okay.
Oh, good.
And
I remember when
what matters is if you are drawn, if you are moved to come back to the lessons again and again, then that's what matters. And how you use it each time you're drawn back into it will be the perfect thing for you. At times it may be a life lesson about giving up or not following through on commitments, and at times it will be a lesson in learning to go with the flow and appreciating that everything that happens, the way Byron Katie would talk to us about it from the I don't know mind, that everything that happens is perfect just as it happens.
him and I were studying Eastern religions, Vedanta, and spending a lot of time studying the Bhagavad Gita. There was a story, and I forget where it was. It probably wasn't in the Gita now that I think about it. I think it was a story about one of Ramakrishna's disciples. He came to him, and it was a woman. She came to him and said, I can't do this practice, whatever it was. And he said, well, then how about doing this? And she said, no, I can't do that. And he named a couple of other possibilities, and she said each time, I can't do that. And finally he said, who do you love? What do you love? And the woman said, I have a nephew. He's 6 months old. And Ramakrishna said, okay, go and hold him and love him the way you obviously love him, and start there. And the woman could do that. And I've often thought, I'm sort of like the woman. I keep saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do the other. And can't is a funny word. It might mean, it's sort of like needs and wants. It might not be true. I might be able to do it. Maybe I deeply don't desire to do it. I don't want to do it. But whatever it is, Ramakrishna never got mad at her or impatient. He stayed with her, sort of like that tribe that stayed with the person who needed to be reminded of their own song. So gorgeous. And the Ramakrishna just stayed with her.
And that's what we want you to do with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I might discover, as I am moved to come back to the Course in Miracles lessons for the 37th time, right, 37 years into this work, I might discover that the real reason I interrupt my lessons or I don't follow through is that I'm holding a belief that if I did, I would become unknowable to my family.
Yeah.
Or I would have to give up something that I crave and I don't think I could live without.
Mm.
And so, you know, if that happens and I make that discovery, then I deal with it when I make it. But I don't need to beat myself up over the times that I have spent doing the lesson partially or doing it, you know, as best I could in one way or another, because every bit of that is just life, is just me being a human being doing the best he can in each moment with whatever resources he has. How could that be a bad thing? It can't. You know, we're in this very unhealthy pattern in our society where we have been taught to honor the negative emotional states of blame and guilt and shame and literally put them up on a pedestal or wear them as a badge of courage, and they are not productive. And there are really good ways and really good teachers that come at us and try and remind us, like Byron Katie does, that everything is perfect just the way it's happening.
Mm.
And or, you know, Brene Brown and her husband go back and forth trying to discuss whether or not every human being is doing the very best they can in each moment with whatever resources they have. And that's not what our culture teaches.
Right.
And let's hope that our culture is wrong, because our culture has led to war after war and verbal and emotional abuse in relationships and physical abuse and sexual abuse. And so let's hope there's another way to look at this. Let's hope that another way to look at my situation, to be more like Sylvia Boorstein every time I have a negative thought or emotion, and put my hand over my heart space and say to myself, very, very gently, Timmy, sweetheart, you're in pain. Take a few deep breaths, calm down, then we'll look at what's going on, and then we'll decide what to do. And that includes if I get upset with myself because I realized I made a commitment to do the Course in Miracles lessons, and now I'm not doing them. It's far more productive for me to be gentle with myself and just accept that what's happening is happening, and maybe question it gently and look for potential explanations, than it is for me to beat myself up and entertain a whole bunch of negative thoughts about myself because I didn't live up to that commitment. The negative emotions, it says this in Way of Mastery very, very clearly. It says, listen, it's not that you will never experience anger again. Of course you will experience anger again. All that teaching is guiding us towards is to just stop rationalizing it. Just understand that the anger is always an error in thought. Michael Rice has lately taken to calling them thought disorders. But if I'm gentle with myself and acknowledge the error that's leading to the negative emotion, and acknowledge that it's an inside job, now I have myself actually looking at something that I have control over, and I can pick up the tools to explore and dismantle. But getting angry at myself or someone else when they don't live into a commitment is completely counterproductive. Questioning it is productive. Gently questioning, let's say that this is the third time I've decided to do the Course in Miracles lessons, and I get to about lesson 113, and I realize, oh my gosh, the last 7 days I haven't done any lessons. I completely dropped the ball here. Well, gently questioning for myself, gee, what was going on 7 or 8 or 9 days ago that might have been building up to trigger me to stop doing the lessons? What was going on in the lesson, either the last one I did or the one I didn't do? What is written in there that might be a challenge for me, or that my mind might have used to create some fearful set of predictions? If I gently question that, I'm going to get more out of it than beating myself up and thinking how horrible and what a schmuck I am and how bad it is that I can't follow through on commitments or whatever. Take a gentle breath and soften and explore, well, gee, I wonder what it is about this commitment that made me make the commitment when part of me clearly didn't want to follow through on it. Let me just explore that gently. Maybe I was only doing it because I wanted to look spiritual to this group of people that I hang out with. Maybe I was only doing it because I had a guru who told me I needed to. And it wasn't really coming from a desire within me to grow and explore and expand my experience of life in a different way. If I gently question, if I live in the observation, if I know that asking that question is going to leave me without any clear answers right away, and that's okay, and I can guide myself to be more comfortable living in that gentle, opening, questioning, observing way, I open the doors for growth. When I pour my energy into thoughts that create a negative emotion or negative thoughts about myself, I shut off the potential for growth. It is that cut and dried. There is no more to it than that. A choice for anger, a choice for bitterness, a choice for what Course in Miracles would call grievances is the opposite of the choice for love, is the opposite of the choice for miracles. Whatever I build a grievance about, whatever mind energy I pour into my thoughts about grievance, whether it's toward myself or somebody else, it's the opposite of choosing direct observation about my true nature and staying consciously aware of the miracle of life expressing in, through, as, and around me. And the choice once I become aware of it, the choice is mine. And one key, then Susan Bingham. Just breathe.
I can't even go there. Yeah. No, I
breathe.
understand that.
Because when you do that, you'll tap into even more of this grief and sadness. The thought that could be true and yet could have been so powerfully negatively hidden from you, beaten out of you, literally, as a child, will tap into even deeper levels of grief than you were just experiencing in a few waves minutes ago.
Mm. Yeah.
So I encourage you to soften and breathe into the exploration of every thought that wants to fight against your value, your having your own song, your being as valuable and worthwhile as any human being that's ever been or ever will be. And be willing to explore that, because it is the doorway through which you and then your children and grandchildren will experience a life dramatically better and different than what your forefathers and mothers have experienced.
I'm hoping that it's possible to pass that on to them without having it fully realized in myself. I'm just hoping that it isn't even faking it. I absolutely adore my grandchildren, and I believe they are wonderful, and I do practice a lot of the things you've suggested, like telling my OCD suffering grandson that he's okay, he's healthy, he's very, very bright. He has the right thoughts. He just has to realize that he has them, and he does. I don't answer the OCD questions that he asks for reassurance. I say, what do you think? What does your best mind think? He always gives the best, immediately gives the answer of a healthy thinking mind. And I say, yeah, you've got it. Live into that. Let the other thing go. But, yeah, you got it, Charlie. And so, and you helped me realize that, and that's been great. Now, I just want to accept it, too. And I hope if I don't get there, that the kids are going to be okay anyway. They don't have to have me get there for myself. I can give it to them. And in giving it to them, maybe it's coming to me, too. But even putting the hand on the heart and saying, Susan, sweetheart, man, I squirm. That just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel good.
All right. Okay, but I encourage you to do it every time you can, and then explore what is feeding and fueling the squirming, because those are the lies and the traumatic energies and the negative beliefs passed down through your generations that need to be dismantled.
Right.
And understand this. Whatever spiritual teacher might tell you that you have to do this or that for your grandson or granddaughter or whatever, understand this. You're giving them one of the best gifts any parent or grandparent could ever give a person, child or grown adult. And that is a living, breathing example that they are never too old to learn and grow and change and become the kind of person that they would like to be. That's happening. That is happening. You are magnificent and thriving, and you are giving that to them. Full stop. Full realization. So breathe into that. Hand over your heart space or not, whatever works. And thank you so much once again for chiming in here near at the end of the show, and I look forward to hearing how it's going when we connect again.
Thanks. Thanks, Dr. Tim, a lot. Thanks.
You're very welcome and deserving. I'll remind us all once again, as I have already in this show, that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.